So let's talk about how to lose belly fat. Perhaps you're wanting to fit into those sexy jeans or get ready for looking good in a bikini or, I don't know, look svelte in that suit or get those visible abs or whatever. Or maybe you're just looking to improve your health for the long haul. And so belly fat can be more than a nuisance. It can actually, be more than a nuisance that makes your clothes feel tight. It actually can be seriously harmful. In particular, we're talking about the visceral fat, the fat that surrounds our organs, not just the subcutaneous fat. And losing weight in this particular area, the belly region, can certainly be a little bit difficult at times, but nevertheless, there are some simple steps that you can do to really help to trim down and shape up. So here are some quick tips for you. Eat a whole, unprocessed diet, so whole foods. Read the labels, clearly try to eliminate the artificial flavors, sugars, and colors and all that sort of thing. Number 2 is adjust your carb tolerance. We're all alike and yet we're all different. Just like we all have different skin tones, and so therefore different sun tolerance, we all have different carbohydrate tolerance. And so if you're an active, then you'll need less. If you're an active person, you might need more. So adjust your carb tolerance. Number 3 is get physical. Get some targeted exercise and to really help to burn that belly fat. Now, high intensity interval training along with weight training are your best bets. Another tip here is to skip the snacks and allow your body to burn the fat between meals and to lower your insulin levels. So rather than looking for the healthy snacks, just train your body to go between meals and really aim for just 3 meals a day. If you're practicing intermittent fasting, which is another tip to target belly fat, then of course 2 meals a day, or maybe you're even on an OMAD, a 1 meal a day program to really, for a period of time, to really burn into those fat stores. So another tip is to actually detoxify the body. A lot of people struggle with losing fat because their body's toxic and is resistant to shedding the excess fat. You'll want to get good sleep, reduce your stress, and perhaps even use some targeted nutrient supplements like green tea and caffeine and conjugated linoleic acid and Sinatrol and these sorts of things that can help you to burn fat and look your best. So belly fat's not typically burnt locally, so don't think that you can do 1,000 sit-ups every day and suddenly you're going to look svelte. It will help with the muscles, but you have to shed the actual fat. So you need to set your body up to burn fat. So it's Corey Sievers here with the Savvy team, and we believe that anyone can reach their best shape, can really achieve their best shape with the right plan and some guidance and support along the way. So welcome along if you've just joined us here for the Healthy Savvy Life Show. If you're new here to what we do in the Savvy team, we're all about helping you reach that high level of health and wellness. And here on the Healthy Savvy Life Show, we share tips, strategies, information really to help you get that done. So if you're new, consider liking, following, or subscribing, depending on where you happen to be catching it here. So again, my name's Corey Sievers. I'm the co-founder around here in the Savvy team and a passionate wellness educator and researcher. So I've always got my fingers out there looking at some of the research, and I really want to simplify that. So rather than quoting research and reading papers to you and everything, I guess I tend to like to distill it for you and give you some quick tips. So let's jump into them in a little bit more depth and talk about how to burn belly fat. I'd love to hear your comments as we go through too. Give us a wave if you happen to be coming on live. So it's interesting when we deal with this whole issue of belly fat. We often get these questions in from community members. Let me just share some of those questions with you. You might absolutely relate. So some of the common questions are, what's the best exercise to give me the six-pack? And what's the best exercise to give me a flat tummy? What's the best exercise to get rid of my muffin top? Well, the truth is, despite what all of the things that you see out there, the total fat burning workout with all of the right imagery and everything, the amount of fat that you actually burn in any given workout is not that much. So actually you need to set doing exercise and targeted exercise and and exercise for improving your shape, improving your health, improving your fitness, and yes, activating your fat-burning hormones, it's a wise idea. But the exercise itself, a lot of people reward themselves for the exercise. They say, well, I've just been on the treadmill for an hour, so I'm going to have a muffin and a latte. And if you add up the calories in a muffin and a latte and look at what you burned, you've probably lost out there. So the challenge with exercise is it can set up this reward structure. So it's really not right, this whole total fat burning workout. There's so much more that we need to do than just workout. Working out's a good idea. It's one of the things that we need to do, but we also need to set our body up in other ways. See, the thing is that exercise will help the muscles under the fat. It definitely will. But it won't necessarily get rid of the fat that's covering the muscles. And that's what we're talking about. So let's suppose that we take it away from belly fat and we say that you just wanted to target your arms. If you're worried about targeting your arms, do you think that specific exercises for the arms can actually help? Well, the truth is that the results are minimal. Targeted fat loss is really more of a myth than a reality, okay? Spot reduction is a popular idea. It's a great idea to be able to, I'll do arm exercises so I can get rid of my fat on the arm. So that means that if you have those cuddle arms, tuck shop arms as some people call them or whatever, then what? If you just do tricep exercises all day, then suddenly the fat will disappear. We know it's not logical, but we do those sorts of things with abs and everything. And certainly you will, if you do some of the tummy exercise, the core training, you're going to feel the muscles starting to be more dense and structured and supportive, which is a good thing for your posture and your all-round wellness. But if you've still got a big load of fat on the outside and internally around the internal organs, the visceral fat, then you haven't really improved things. So what we have to do is we actually have to set the body up to be in a fat burning mode. So body fat is not typically burnt locally. You have to set your body up to burn fat all over. And if you've ever lost fat before, you know that you can't predict where it comes off. We're all unique. We all have different genetic tendencies. And so some people can lose quite a lot of fat and yet not actually look significantly different in the area that most concerns them, and maybe around the belly. So some people do genetically tend to carry it around the middle. You might tend to carry it on the hips and thighs. Some people it might be all over or it might be high up. Then we have the difference in the sexes. So women have a tendency to put it on around the hips and the thighs, and then men have a tendency to put it on in the gut area, right? That also means that men are at a higher risk of heart disease, etc., because of all this visceral fat. So, we really need to set our body up just to be a fat burning machine. And if you're frustrated by the number on the scale, and you sort of want to change your shape, it's time to get focused not so much on your weight, but on your body composition, because your shape is all about the ratio of fat to muscle. So, a couple of kilos of fat is a lot larger in size than a couple of kilos of muscle because of the density. And so obviously doing exercise to build muscle tissue is wise, but we also want to set up our body to be able to burn fat. And it's not just exercising more and eating less, because that's the typical advice that you've heard, right? Just exercise more, eat less. And yet if you don't eat the right things and you don't deal with some of the fundamental issues that might be causing you to have lack of success when dieting, then you yo-yo back again. Let's just take this. They have done extensive studies on The Biggest Loser and the contestants there. Now, these are people whose full-time job, we could call it a pastime, but their full-time job was to shed fat. And what did they do each and every day? Like they didn't eat much, and they just exercised and exercised and exercised and exercised. But they didn't deal with some of the underlying fundamentals, the drivers of weight gain. And so the statistics showed that they put it all back on, plus some. And so that's good for the weight loss industry, because yo-yo dieting works if you want to sell pills, and so all the fancy pills that are out there for sale through ads and everything, through the not so reputable marketing tactics, like as in just the types of ads that grab you in and say shock this and all that sort of thing. That's all set up to have you buy and buy and fail and buy and fail and buy. So here in the Savvy team, we want to help you to shed the fat and then be done and move on to other wellness projects, not to have to redo this fat loss goal again. Obviously, we all fall off the wagon, as they say, colloquialism there, but so, many of you understand that we don't, that this muscle can weigh more than fat. And so this is what changes our shape. And so this is where, like, so many people can weigh the same, but they can have a totally different shape. And women know that with clothing sizes and figures, probably in a lot of ways more so than men. They're aware of that. And this really comes down to the unique muscle to fat ratio. But when we're dealing with belly fat, whether it's on a woman or a man, this visceral fat, this internal fat, is not healthy. It definitely increases your risk of disease. So there's no doubt about that. And so when we look at that there, the subcutaneous fat is, the stuff that you can squeeze on the outside. But if you've got a big, protruding belly or whatever, and there's quite often a lot of fat around the internal organs. And you can actually see this on things such as the DEXA scan technology. You can see that you actually had fatty infiltration around your internal organs, and that it jacks up your risk of disease. So looking at this, you've probably heard of the BMI. You say, well, hang on, but I'm like perfect on the BMI. I'm right within range. Well, the challenge is that when you're looking at the BMI, it has been potentially flawed. So normal weight people that are normal weight, that appear to be healthy, can actually have a lot of central obesity. And this can still increase their risk for cardiovascular disease. So this is what was published in the Annals of Internal Medicine, that normal weight central obesity, defined by a weight to height ratio, is associated with a higher mortality than BMI-defined obesity. So particularly in the absence of central fat distribution. Long story short, essentially that means that, you can look fine, you can look healthy, you can look trim, and everybody says you're not fat. And yet you can have quite a lot of visceral fat impacting your wellness, all around the middle. And you might have that muffin top, you might have some of those things that you're not happy about from an external appearance. It doesn't matter. Whatever gets you to take action, if it's to look good in those sexy jeans or to improve your health to be around for the family long term, it doesn't matter as long as you make the changes. Your motivation is your motivation. We're here to help you to transform. So, I've been working with people in the weight loss industry since 2005, running programs. And one of the, like they say that a builder's house is never complete or whatever, because you just never work on your own stuff sometimes. Well, I allowed the weight to creep on by living too much of the good life and all that sort of thing. So this is what happened for me. You can transform, and you can transform quickly. So I had reached my heaviest point, and yet then decided that's it. I'm going to do something about it. Now I'm no Greek god, or I'm not the leanest individual around, but that hasn't been my goal. But I wanted to get back into a situation where I was very happy with the way clothes were on me and getting rid of the belly. So I did it, and you can too. And so I had my journey actually proven with DEXA scan technology. And, even because of the muscle density that I have now, I'm still considered on the, and for my height, my BMI supposedly is not healthy in that second picture there. So this is where BMI has been shown to be flawed. So what you want to do instead is to take your waist measurement and look at your waist to height ratio. So you want your waist measurement to be less than half, or at least half your height. So if you're 180 centimeters, you want your waist to be less than 90 centimeters. Okay, it's pretty simple, and that has been proven to be a more effective risk factor thing to monitor than indeed simply the BMI or anything, or even your weight. So get out that scale and check yourself out. So what happened for me is I did have the DEXA scan done, and I'd actually, on DEXA technology, ended up going all the way up to 27.5% fat, and yet, it was well hidden in clothes, etc. And I came all the way down to just below 18% in the DEXA scan, went even down to 16% body fat after that. But that picture was at 17.9 according to the DEXA scan. So you can do it too, and it can happen very quickly for you. But the challenge is that we've got to challenge some of the traditional weight loss advice, which is like eat less, exercise more, eat less fat, eat more complex carbohydrates, eat more often. This doesn't necessarily set us up to actually get the job done. So what I'd like to do is go through some of the tips to really help you to maintain that trim midsection, or at least get it back again. All right. I think we're about, we should be. All right, let me just check where we're at here, because we've got some glitches going on. All right. Nope. We will get there. The fun of live broadcast. All right. I think we're good there. All right, so what are some of the tips that you can do? What I might do is do this and come back again. All right. So number one is you could eat whole foods, as I mentioned there. So we provide the Eat Savvy approach to help you choose savvier food choices, but just aim for more of a whole food type of diet, aiming for more of the low carb approach, anti-inflammatory approach, this sort of thing. So when the Johns Hopkins researchers compared the effects on the heart of losing weight through a low carb diet versus a low fat diet for 6 months, each with exactly the same calories. So this is not just talking about fat loss. There's a lot of people talking about the low carb and not so good, etc. But Johns Hopkins researchers did this. They looked at exactly the same calories, losing it via a low-fat diet for 6 months or a low-carbohydrate diet. And those on the low-carb diet lost, on average, 10 pounds more than the low-fat diet, on average. So isn't that interesting? The same calories, and they lost more fat, because there's more than just calories going on here. So using the concept of calories is really the law of thermodynamics, which is the physics of fat loss. But we are not just a physics creature. We are a biological creature. So there's biology on top of it, hormones, and all this to go in there as well. So if you've just been reducing the calories whilst not thinking about the types of food you're eating, and whether you're skipping snacks, whether you're doing targeted exercise, etc., then you're just going to work harder than you actually need to. So definitely reach for a whole food diet, more on the low carb side of things, and more on the natural foods. Okay, so we could split hairs on that, because if you put paleo people in a room with vegan people, they'd fight it out to the death. But the point is whole foods, going towards more of the low carb, healthy fats, as well as lean proteins. Not even lean proteins all the time, but if you're looking to lose fat, you want to reduce your carbs, and also just be careful of not too much fat intake. Now, you'll want to read the labels carefully and clear out your pantry to be ready for it in advance, and then you'll want to adjust your carb tolerance. Now, we're all alike and yet we're all different. So we all have different skin tones and a different ability to cope with the sun. And the same thing, we have different ability through our history, our genetics, etc., to cope with carbohydrates. And so there's metabolic typing, there's looking at the blood type diet, there's all sorts of ways, there's genetic testing. But the simple thing is to reduce your carbohydrates and then, increase things after you've lost the weight. Try it out and see what puts weight on you. A lot of our community members have simply found that when they eat that food, they put on weight. And so they don't eat that food and they maintain a healthy weight. So it's actually not that difficult. And there's no use arguing, yeah, but my sister can eat that and my brother can eat that. And when I eat that, I just get fat. There's no point arguing about that. If you've noticed that it puts weight on you, don't eat it. I know it's hard sometimes, but I would encourage you to skip the snacks and in fact begin to practice maybe some intermittent fasting where you skip some meals. Okay, that can be very good for autophagy, for cleaning up the system, for helping the detox, and for helping you dip into your fat stores. Obviously, if you're struggling with blood sugar imbalance issues, you'll want to tackle those first, and then you can start to really deal with skipping snacks to start with, and then maybe even skipping a meal. So it's important to get physical and to really look at exercise. While exercise is not the first approach to burn more calories, it is important for all-round health. And one of the biggest benefits of exercise is improving muscle density, improving the movement of your lymphatic system, improving insulin sensitivity. All of these are reasons to exercise, but it's not to burn the calories. It can help. So, for example, if the more movement that you can do throughout the day, so if you can walk more, if you can get more steps in, if you can do more non-exercise movement, that will all help in that calorie burn. But when you actually go and exercise, sometimes that can trigger hunger. So that's the problem there. Whereas if you just walk around a lot, move, get out of the car, get out of the bus or the car earlier and walk further, etc. That non-exercise fat burning can really help you can really add up over time. So get physical, do what you can. In particular, perhaps start a weight training regimen, even if that's doing body weight movements at home or getting some resistance bands to do that sort of thing, and then look for high intensity exercise. So if you've got some stairs around near you, some steep stairs or whatever, maybe go there and walk up them as quickly as you can, and then active recovery coming down, and then do that again. That's an example of high intensity interval training. All right, so the next thing that you'll want to do is to actually track your waist measurement. As I was mentioning before, that waist to height ratio is really, really important. And so sometimes it can be really, really depressing when we're looking on the scales, because if you are exercising and taking the right nutrients and changing your diet, you actually could be putting on muscle density and your weight may not change, but your shape is dramatically changing. That's why people say often, I'm on the scales and nothing has changed, but my clothes are all loose. Yes, that's body recomposition happening. That's why the best thing to do is to start taking measurements, and at least your waist measurement. Obviously, your height's not going to change. But if you go, well, I can't see the scale has gone down, but my navel circumference went down by 1 centimeter. You are going in the right direction. Keep it up, keep it up, keep it up. Okay, those love handles and the muffin top and everything will be gone in no time if you just keep it up. Okay, so track your waist measurement. I would suggest that you consider some of the detoxifying principles and address your food sensitivities, because a lot of these can cause you to hold on to at least water weight, but sometimes also hold on and not be able to lose the fat. So you can do all sorts of things to find out food sensitivities. But if really the Pareto principle things to avoid in terms of dietary villains, and what's Pareto principle? It's the 80-20 rule. So what 20% of things could you eliminate that would give you the 80% biggest bang for your buck in terms of fat loss? Sugar of all sorts, grains, and vegetable oils, inflammatory oils. If you eliminated them, your health is going to improve and you could be losing a lot of fat too. Now, if we were to think, what one food has all three of those packaged up with some chemicals and maybe in plastic wrapping and something else? Packaged food of all sorts. So even eliminating packaged foods and cooking your own, reaching for whole foods can make such a huge difference. Let us know if you've had any results with that sort of action. Next, get good sleep and reduce your stress. So we've seen another one I could throw in there with the detox and food sensitivities, since I mentioned chemicals, is chemicals. We've seen people actually pursuing, for example, our rapid fat loss protocol, go to the hairdresser and have their hair done to look all beautiful, and their weight loss stalled for nearly a week through the chemical load. And so really being careful with all of these chemicals, whether they be in food or externally put onto your body, really wise thing to, if you're looking to sustain, have sustained weight management over the long haul. But anyway, sleep, again, if you have, like a week of poor sleep, weight loss can stall. If you're stressed out, then not only can it trigger those cravings and wanting to go for the go to the fridge and have the munchies and everything, but because of the cascade effect it has on your fat loss hormones, it can slow things down as well. So the more you can relax and chill out and enjoy and have some time out and meditate and everything, even though you're going to be busier and more active and all that sort of thing, then the better for you. So the next thing would be to use some targeted nutrients. Okay, so there are some really helpful targeted nutrients. Things such as conjugated linoleic acid can help you can help the body to shuttle the fuel away from being stored and send it over to be burnt. There are other things like L-carnitine that can help to make sure that the fuel is burnt more in the mitochondria. Things like sinatrol, which is sort of like an extract of a citrus polyphenols mixed with guarana and this sort of thing, a patented extract that has been shown to directly target like central obesity, and so there are lots of nutrients that you can really reach for. Caffeine, even just a cup of coffee, but certainly intermittent fasting has been shown to target belly fat. It's not that it's targeting that, but because it's activating the right hormones, and we talk about that in another class, the 8 fat loss hormones. So really the intermittent fasting helps with growth hormone, and high intensity interval training helps with growth hormone, insulin sensitivity, all of these sorts of things. So it sets you up to be in more of a fat burning mode throughout the rest of your day, okay? But the targeted nutrients can really, really help. Sometimes our community members have found trace minerals and cinnamon and zinc and chromium and these sorts of things really help with the craving, so that they're not snacking as much, and so it makes weight loss effortless when you don't have the craving. So what you really want to do is there's some tips to help you to shed that belly fat, and we have more in some of the other episodes and classes, etc. So just reach out and have a look at that. But I mentioned before about insulin. It's really, and why is a low carb diet better in the whole scheme of things? So how you going? So why is the low carb diet better? Well, the University of Sydney actually did an insulin index looking at all of the foods. You don't need to read what's on here if you happen to be watching this. You don't have to really understand all of these different foods. I want you to get the concept that why is low carb generally better? Well, because it helps you to start getting your insulin levels and your insulin sensitivity under control. So butter, the fatty things like butter, olive oil, and avocado basically did little to trigger an insulin release. Whereas, an apple, an orange, a Coke, and potato chips, they all triggered around about the same insulin response. So they all limited your ability to burn stored fat equally. So we're not saying that they're all as bad as each other. Obviously, there's healthier choices, but we're talking here about setting you up to be able to access stored fat for fuel. It's the same thing over here, that rice bubbles was about the same insulin response as a melon, as honeydew melon. So again, we're not saying that, of course, honeydew melon or rice bubbles, take the honeydew melon, much better for you, much more nutrient dense. An apple versus some potato chips, well, the savvier choice would be the apple. So, but the thing is, we're talking here about being able to set your body up so that it's quite happy to burn your stored body fat for fuel. That's how you get rid of belly fat. Being able to set yourself up so that your body goes, no worries. We've got plenty of stuff around here to burn. Let's go to that fat. And you still feel good in the process. That's the trick. The trick is, how do you lose weight, get rid of the belly fat, and still feel good in the process and actually feel better in the long run by doing it in the savvy way and doing it in the healthiest possible way. So before we wrap things up for this particular session, I wanted to just share with you some of the, I guess, deeper information that you might find interesting from the point of view of what's happened over time here. So obesity is driving a lot of different problems: hypertension, type 2 diabetes, cancer, reproductive disorders, liver problems, all of these sorts of things. And yet before the 1940s, even there was less of a risk. And so even those with the genes, like, there's a lot of focus going into what's the gene, like, I must be genetically predisposed to put on weight. And it's like, okay, hang on, let's really look at this. What else has changed? What's happening in the now? Let's not blame the genes if there's something happening in the now. Statistics also show that those who have struggled with their weight, even if they say they're eating a certain amount of calories, are actually simply grossly underestimating it when they're put on an actual proper, what's the word I'm looking for? Supervised weight loss program with calories strictly controlled. They all lose fat at the same rate. So those who struggle to gain weight and muscle mass and everything, they usually underestimate. So they usually overestimate how much they're eating. They say, oh, I'm eating so much, and they don't really. And those who struggle to lose fat, they're usually actually underestimating what they're eating. They're eating a lot more than they think, and this is triggering problems. But there's more to it than simply that. There's all these chemicals. So before the 1940s, we had less chemicals, less of the seed oils. We had less grains. People were profoundly thin. There was also less snacking. There was practically no packaged foods. There was no Roundup put onto they struggled with DDT and that sort of thing, but there was no Roundup used on the foods. There was less phthalates, which can be weight gain inducing. It's less of all these sorts of things. In actual fact, they have looked at this. They've studied the fact that obesity, and this is age-adjusted deaths due to obesity, skyrocketed after the introduction of glyphosate. This is Roundup used on crops. So, how do you avoid Roundup? Well, don't have grains, don't have commercial seed oils, eat the whole foods, and you're going to dramatically decrease most of those things. So you only have to do a few simple things over a consistent period of time to really make a difference, okay? And that is really what the Eat Savvy approach is all about. So, you can download that for free and follow the 12 steps to get started by just venturing to our blog. So I think that is about it for this particular session, talking about how to lose belly fat. If you do have any questions, of course, please do ask. If you're looking for even more detail, we have masterclasses and everything around this. And if you are looking for guidance and support to actually get the job done, we have a number of programs, and I'm sure that one of them would actually suit your needs. So reach out to your Savvy Team Wellness Guide or message the page, and we can get you started. So that is it for this session. I'll just check whether there's any particular comments or questions right now. Okay, looks good. Yes, indeed. All right. So thanks for being with us for this particular episode of Healthy Savvy Life. So until next time, It's Corey Sievers here, encouraging you to be savvy in everything you do. So all the best. Catch you next time.